Good evening, everybody. I welcome you all to the second part of the webinar, Preparation for Your Match. On the 11th of February, we conducted the first part, which was the physical aspect. Today, we'll be conducting the technical aspect. Let me begin with the first video. Webinar on the technical aspects of your match preparation. As I mentioned in the last webinar on 11 January, we discussed the physical preparation required before your match. In this webinar, we will discuss how you should prepare for your match while keeping the technical aspects in mind. The points are: what is technical warming up? What are the different elements and parts of technical warming up? Which technical aspect you should focus on in your match and to avoid match pressure and to improve your scores. Technical match strategies and how to practice this in your practice session. All right, my first question to the viewers is, and I will be asking a lot of questions so that this becomes more participative. Okay, it is not important for you to answer each and every question, but what I would like you is to think about the question, and if you have an answer, you can either reply yes or no, or you may write it down. So what is technical warming up and why should you do it? The question is thrown to the audience. Please use our chat box. Okay. Technical warming up is necessary so that you start shooting tens from the very first record shot. Now, most of us, when we start off shooting, we are not very sure about how to shoot a 10. And different shooters approach the match in different with different strategies. Like it's mentioned, however, not every shooter can shoot tens from the first record shot, since it depends on the shooter's mastery of the skill required for shooting a 10. Now, in the following videos, in the following slides, we are going to see different shooters. Okay, and for each shooter, basically 4 shooters, you will see how they shoot, and depending upon their skill, their mastery over the skill for shooting a 10, that will also decide what their technical warming up is. Please watch. In order to master the skill for shooting a 10, the shooter has to master 3 steps. Before we go to that, you saw four series or 4 series shot by 4 different shooters. And obviously, someone who's shooting 71 out of 100, or 85 out of 100, or 94 out of 100, 98 out of 100, they are at different skill level. And all these shooters, the beginner next level, the intermediate level, and the advanced shooter, their technical warming up is going to be very different. It differs from shooter to shooter, and it depends upon the mastery on a skill for shooting a 10. Like I mentioned before, the reason why we are doing this technical warming up is that when you begin your first record shot, you must start by shooting your best. Now, as we have seen these 4 shooters, the best for an advanced shooter is shooting 10s right from the word go. Whereas for the beginner, the pure beginner, maybe the first match, his best would be to try and get that shot within the black. But that doesn't matter. Both, whether it is the beginner or the advanced level shooter, both are trying to get their best performance from the very first shot. And for that, technical warming up is very important. And it also depends upon the mastery of the shooter on the skill for shooting a 10. Okay. Now, when I started shooting many years ago, and when I started shooting, I did my basic course, and which I did quite well. And after the course was over, I went and asked the chief instructor. I said, "Sir, what next? When should I come for coaching again?" So he said, "What coaching?" So I said, "Well, I had this dream in my mind, of going for the highest level." And so I was a bit taken aback. So I said, "Aren't you going to coach me all the way to the national championships and beyond?" He said, "Of course not. Whoever gave you that idea, you just do the basic course and you are on your own." So I went, after that instructor had gone, I went and sat down on the chair. I said, I had joined this course thinking that whoever is going to teach me will teach me not only how to shoot 10s, okay, but will guide me all the way to my goal. And that was a big shock for me. And let me tell you, it took me many years. And the reason why probably, and I asked a lot of people, I observed a lot of top level shooters. And I used to keep asking them this question: how do I shoot a 10? How do I shoot a 10? Most of the answers used to be, probably they didn't give me the answer. They were not very keen on answering my question. And I thought that maybe they don't want to answer because they themselves don't know how to shoot a 10, which is a fact. Which is a fact with 90% of the shooters, unfortunately, instructors also. They don't know how to shoot a 10. So how are they going to tell you? The second thing is that they know how to shoot a 10. They are very good coaches. They are instructors, genuine coaches who know how to shoot a 10. Unfortunately, they cannot explain to you, to the new shooter, in simple steps how to shoot a 10. Like do this, do this, do this. Do A, B, C. Take these 3 steps and you shoot a 10. Maybe they find it difficult, so they just tell you, okay, do this: side alignment, arc of movement, focus, trigger, follow through. Bits and pieces. So it's a big jigsaw. And the third reason that I've thought that people don't tell me, and I asked this from the best of shooters in India, how do you shoot a 10? And they were very reticent, they were not very keen on, giving up this information. Maybe because they thought that, this fellow may go ahead of me. There is always that fear. So after many years, and I found myself, traveling through a fog. It was very frustrating those early years. No one to tell you anything, no one to guide you. It was something like this. I felt I was going through a fog, traveling through a fog. So as a result, I was left to experiment on my own. So for the first few days, I would, work on my sight alignment, try and get that sights aligned, then work on my focus, then work on my arc of movement, then some days on my trigger. All the time I was experimenting. All the time I was experimenting. And, there was always this fear. There's always this thought, am I doing this? The way I'm training, am I doing it the correct thing? This doubt was always there. So I wasted a lot of time and I felt like I was moving through a fog, like the way it is shown in the next video. There are 3 steps for shooting a 10. These are as follows. First is mastering the aiming process and making it automatic. Second is mastering the smooth continuous trigger operation and making it automatic. And the third thing is mastering the skill for mental focus on trigger operation. Now, most of you must be wondering for the first time, apart from my students, you may be wondering, what is this? How to shoot a 10? Well, what we have done, or what I have done over the last 30 years is what I could not get answers from my seniors and from my coaches. I decided to make 3 steps. I developed 3 steps. If you follow these 3 steps, you will shoot a 10. Not only shoot a single 10, but shoot rows of 10s. Now, the first step is how to make your aiming process automatic. Now, what is the aiming process? I will be showing you the next video. The second step was how to make your trigger operation, smooth continuous trigger operation, automatic. You must be wondering, what is this automatic? And the third step is mentally focusing on the trigger operation. So let us begin with the first step. In this video, I will be discussing the first step, which is what is the aiming process, how do you master it, and how do you make it automatic. The aiming process comprises of three elements. First is sight alignment, second is your focus on the sights, and the third is reducing the arc of movement. So the aiming process is when your sights come into the aiming area, your sights should be aligned and steady. Your focus has to be sharp on the sights till the time you achieve a correct follow through. And the third thing is your arc of movement should be reduced to the minimum. And all these three things must happen automatically. Now, when you start shooting, like when I had started shooting, it was only after a year or so that my sights became steady. But you don't have to do that. Within 3 to 6 months, you can master the entire aiming process. You can have your aiming process exactly like the way it is shown in this video. Now to do that, you must train systematically. And 3 to 6 months you can master your aiming process. Now how do you master the aiming process? In model number 3, there are training exercises which help you to master the entire aiming process. Now a little bit more I will explain to you what all you master and what all you hope to get in training methodology. See, there are exercises which help you to maintain a wrist lock. If your wrist is not locked when you take the sights into the aiming area, your sights are going to move like this, as shown in the video. The second thing is you're maintaining a continuous grip pressure follow through. So what is this grip pressure follow through? That means when your sights come into the aiming area, if your sights have to remain steady and aligned, your grip has to be consistent. The grip pressure has to be consistent before, during, and after the shot is fired. Now these two things, the grip pressure follow through and the wrist lock follow through, these are exercises which are given in module number 3, which you can master, and in this way your aiming process will be mastered. Made the same mistake. So the question is, how many of you were aware of the fact, the relationship between your wrist lock and your sight alignment? If you're aware of this relationship, please say yes. Or if you're not aware of this relationship between your wrist lock and your sight alignment, as it was shown in the video, say no. Please use the chat box. That's very good. Almost everyone has said yes. Now my second question is, how many of you were aware that your sight alignment is related to your consistent grip pressure? Please answer yes or no. Use your chat box. Brilliant. Very nice. Almost all of you all have answered in the affirmative. That's excellent. I'll just recap the aiming process again. When the sights come into the aiming area, your sights should be aligned. They should be steady. It should be in sharp focus, and your arc of movement should be reduced to the minimum. And all these three things must happen automatically because they have a relationship on your second step, which is automatic, continuous, smooth trigger follow through, which will be explained in the next video. Now, without mastering the aiming process, that is, when the sights come into the aiming area, your sights have to be aligned, they have to be steady, and with a reduced arc of movement, with a very good sharp focus. right till you execute your shot. Until unless your aiming process is mastered and it is automatic, it is impossible to have an automatic trigger operation. Your trigger operation cannot become automatic. It will not be correct trigger execution also, because in correct trigger execution, your trigger should move smoothly, continuously, before, during, and after the shot is fired, which is called as trigger operation follow. Now, why is it that you must master the aiming process and make it automatic? The first reason is, the moment your sights come into the aiming area, your trigger should move automatically. And that is not going to happen if you're going to take 2-3 seconds for getting all the elements of the aiming process to your satisfaction. Your trigger will not move continuously if your attention continuously goes on the moving sights of the trigger. Your mind gets diverted to the foresight shaking, and then you wait till your foresight stops shaking, and then you go back to concentrating on your trigger operation. Then it may also happen that your mind gets distracted to the entire sights shaking, as shown in the video. You wait till the sights become steady, and then you go back to concentrating on your trigger operation. On a blurred focus, sometimes your mind gets distracted to an improper focus, as shown in the video. And then again you wait so that you get a good focus, and then again you go back to concentrating on the trigger operation. And a wide arc of movement. And sometimes it can so happen that your mind gets distracted to the arc of movement. So you wait till your arc of movement is reduced, then you go again back to concentrating on your trigger operation. So even before the shot is fired, your mind and your mental focus is completely diffused. So what happens is when the shot is fired, your mental focus is completely diffused and your shot can go anywhere. So that is why, as shown in this video, you will see the trigger stop, starts, and then eventually there's a jerk. The shot may go anywhere. Also, your trigger delays for a very, very now, without mastering the aiming process longer, this leads to time pressure. Focus is completely diffused. So what happens is when the shot is fired, your mental focus is completely diffused and your shot can go anywhere. So that is why, as shown in this video, you will see the trigger stop, starts, and then eventually there's a jerk. The shot may go anywhere. Also, your trigger delays for a very, very long time. As a result, what happens is, if you take so long, 10-15 seconds to execute your trigger operation, this will have an effect on the amount of time you take to execute one shot. And the longer you take to hold the pistol in the aiming area because of delayed trigger operation, this will lead to your arm getting fatigued and you getting tired, and so between one shot and the second shot you will need to rest longer. This leads to time pressure. In the last 10 minutes you'll have to shoot 10-15 shots, and you know what happens. And that is why, until unless your aiming process is mastered and is automatic trigger operation doesn't happen. How to make your trigger operation automatic? Once again, find a good coach who will give you a training plan and exercises on how to make your trigger automatic. That is, first he has to teach you how to make the aiming process automatic. Only then will your trigger operation move automatically. Alternatively, on module number 3 and 4 in my training program on my website, where you coordinate your breathing with your trigger operation. Now I will say, how do you coordinate your breathing with your trigger operation? Well, you can go on my module number 4 training methodology and find the exercises, but I'll give you a hint. See, there are so many different kinds of breathing techniques which shooters follow all over the world. If I get to discuss this now, this video will go for more than 2-3 hours. But I'll give you an idea of how this happens. When you coordinate your breathing along with your trigger, I'll give you one example. If you hold your breath, the trigger should start moving automatically. The exercises to make your trigger automatic, once they are coordinated with your breathing, which could be holding your breath or exhaling, NRP. There are so many methods. All of them you will find and learn in my modules. Important thing is coordinating your breathing with your second pull, making it automatic. Okay, there are a few questions which I want to ask. First of all, how many of you have achieved automatic aiming process? Or when the sights come into the aiming area, how many of you have the skill for moving that trigger automatically? When the sights come in the aiming area, does your trigger move automatically, smoothly, continuously, before, during, and after the shot? Please use your chat box and give me a reply. Yes or no? Yanni says, I have. Okay, very good. Can you repeat the question? How many of you, when the sights come into the aiming area, your trigger starts moving automatically, continuously, before, during, and after the shot is fired? Okay. Okay, some of you have said no, and some of you are saying no, yes. And those who have, some of them have said that it moves partially. Some of you are saying that, it's not continuous. Next question I want to ask you is, for those whose trigger does not move automatically, how long do you hold? How long do you hold the pistol in the aiming area? And how many times do you cancel regularly? Please answer this question. How long do you hold in seconds? 10 seconds, 8 seconds, 12 seconds, 14 seconds. Use your chat box. "10 to 19 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds, 10 seconds, approximately 17 seconds. Tony says 10 seconds. Tanishi says maximum 10 seconds. About 10 seconds hold, 6 to 8 seconds. Shashwat says, whenever I think I have to cancel, I immediately cancel the shot, which is good. About 10 seconds, less than 10 seconds, 6 to 7 seconds. Okay. Someone says 4 seconds. Wow, that's very good. Sivan Smith says 6 to 7 seconds. Excellent. Very good. Okay. For those of you who are finding it a problem of your shot not going quickly enough, which is average would be 6 to 7 seconds, is excellent. Are you experiencing any pain in your neck, in your shoulders, in any part of your hand? Say yes or no. Just want to know. Yes or no, if you find any pain due to a long hold of the pistol in the aiming area. Some are saying no, some are saying yes, no, no, yes, yes, yes. No pain. That's very good. No, excellent. Very good. I'm very happy to see that, because what happens is if your aiming process is not mastered, then you keep hanging around or you jerk. If you hang around too long, two things come into play. One is you get into match pressure because you keep canceling. And the second thing is that if you keep hanging around there, you're going to get an injury, neck injury, rotator cuff injury, any kind of injury. Okay, so I'm very, very happy to see that most of you uh, do not have any injuries, and I pray to God that you don't get any injuries. Now, most of you have said that your trigger is not automatic, and the reasons are very simple. If you have not mastered the aiming process, that has made it automatic, it is impossible for you to have automatic trigger operation. Let's go to the third step. If this video starts buffering, I have to stop it and restart it. Okay, so please, that depends upon the internet speed or the electrical voltage. Okay, so please bear with me. In this video, we will discuss the third and the most important step, which is keeping the mind focused 100% on your automatic trigger operation before, during, and after the shot is fired. This is called as mental focus follow through on trigger operation. And this is the most difficult aspect. And I'll tell you why. Try to keep your mind focused on one thought, any one thought. Think about anything. Close your eyes. For how long can you keep? In the number of seconds. How many seconds can you keep your mind focused on just one thought? It's very difficult. Because when you keep your mind focused on one thought, other thoughts keep colliding with that thought. And your attention will start wavering from one thought to the other thought. It starts jumping, as shown in this video. And the world's best shooters is the shooter who shoots rows of them, because he has mastered how to keep his mind focused on just one thing, which is the trigger operation. And this is the third part, the third step, which also overlaps with the mental skills. Now, how do you manage to keep your mind focused 100% till you achieve proper trigger follow through? This, again, you need a very good coach who will teach you all these things. Or second, you can come and train with me, subscribe to my modules, come on my WhatsApp group, and I will be teaching you how to keep your mind focused on the trigger operation. All right. Do you have any questions? Please, if anybody has questions, either you can request to speak button is there. You can come in the studio and we can talk, or you can type your question. Okay, there doesn't seem to be no questions. No questions. That's good. Okay, 1 minute. There's someone who wants to come. Prasad Gaikwad wants to come on the studio. Prasad, you're most welcome. I've accepted your request. If your internet is good, please join me. Let us wait and see what Prasad has to say. Okay, Prasad has joined the room. Prasad, your audio. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, well and loud and clear.
Nice to see you, sir, after a while.
Yes.
Sir, one quick question. Anyway, I'll be seeing you in a month's time soon.
Yes.
This question is constantly bothering me because my shooting style is a bit different, that I take both first and the second pull when I reach to the aiming area.
1 minute.
Yeah.
1 minute. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. We are on the same page on this.
Okay.
But the point is, you take your first pull and second pull where? Before you come into the aiming area or when you come into the aiming area?
When I come into the aiming area.
Superb. Very good. Carry on.
So sometimes what happens that my sights gets blurry because I spend time in aligning my sights.
Yeah.
So my first pull is actually happen after I align the sight, and then suddenly there is slight jump, what you already specified earlier, and then that's where actually the problem starts. So this is something which is which is I'm not able to control, to be frank. So how do we really control that? That is the question.
Yeah. Okay. Prasad, you are one of the lucky chaps because you are in India.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're lucky. I'll tell you why. Because you're coming here and training.
Yeah.
And probably after you finish your training, we'll do a follow-up webinar where you will get an opportunity to relate your experience.
Sure.
And this recording, okay, I'm going to cut out this recording, this question that you've asked, and I'll replay it in that webinar, okay, and then I'll invite you, and then what you have to say, people should know. The first thing is that when you come, see, it's all correct training. There is no magic. If you follow certain steps, simple steps, you will achieve automatic trigger operation. And how you're going to achieve automatic trigger operation is, I'll be teaching you, I'll be providing you an AR template.
Okay.
That's the augmented reality template. And in that template, you would be programmed. All you have to do is just watch it. Watch it every day, morning, evening, just watch it. You know, it's just like the traffic signal. See, it has cues. You know, it gives you a cue, a signal to your mind, and you respond accordingly. For example, when you're going to your office and you find you're approaching a traffic signal, and the traffic signal has turned amber or yellow. Okay, so automatically you gear down because you're going to slow down. So that's the cue. You don't even have to. You're thinking about your work. Probably you're on the on your Bluetooth hands-free. You're talking to somebody. You see that signal turning orange, amber, yellow, and you gear down. That is how augmented reality templates work.
Okay.
When your sights, you'll be seeing a sight coming into the coming area, and your trigger will start moving out of it. And I give you 100% guarantee that a trigger will move automatically.
Yes.
And very fast, within 3 days.
Yeah.
Within 3 days. The moment you land, the third day, you are going to be zapped. You're going to say, sir, I did it. My trigger is moving automatically.
Sure, sir.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So don't worry. We look forward to seeing you in Satara,
Yeah.
and your trigger is going to become automatic.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Would anybody like to join in? Okay. So if nobody wants to join in, I'll just add a little bit to his experience. See, the thing is, and I will be taking a webinar specifically on this topic, automatic trigger. See, when we start shooting, right? I want you all to think of the initial days when you started shooting, when you've gone to the shooting range and probably doing a course. We have all, whether it is a world record holder, world champion, Olympic champion, you, me, that beginner who's just walked into the shooting range, we have all been taught to keep the sight steady. This is a visual cue which every shooter starts learning, keeping the sights steady. Do you agree? Do you agree? Yes or no? Please use your chat box. Yes or no? Or have you started off in a different manner? Somebody? If you agree with that, please say yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. Now what happens is you start off by keeping the sight steady. Okay? After a while, when your sights become steady, or when you're trying to get a good focus, or you're trying to reduce the arc of movement, all these three elements of the aiming process are geared to your trigger. So the moment this thing starts moving, your trigger stops. Because as it was in the previous video, your mind can focus only on one thing at a time. It's either the trigger or the sights. Either trigger or the sights. But what I will be teaching you is regardless of what the sights are moving, the arc of movement is there or not, or the focus is there or not, your trigger is going to move automatically when the sights come into the aiming area. You don't waste your time trying to get, like just now Prasad very conveniently he told us that that he has to wait, the sights are blurry, focus is not sharp. You don't have to wait. No. Sights come into the aiming area, trigger starts moving automatically. Whether the sights are aligned, whether the sights are in focus, or whether arc of movement is there or not. Okay. Now, why this is important is that when your trigger starts moving automatically, all these three elements become okay after a period of time. You don't have to wait for 2-3 seconds or even more for getting your act together. Then start on the trigger, and then you delay it, and then there is a jerk. Just imagine if your sights come into the aiming area and trigger starts moving automatically, and not only automatically, continuously, smoothly, before, during, and after the shot is fired. That is what you will all be learning either here or on my modules. Okay, and let's move to the next step. Now, knowing these three steps, okay, the aiming process, automatic trigger operation, and mental focus, keeping your mind focused. Okay, it depends on the skill of the shooter. we had seen those 4 shooters: the beginner second level, the intermediate level, the advanced. Okay, they are at different levels, and how their technical warming up is depending upon their mastery of the skill level. I'll give you an example. First, let us see how much time is devoted we have for technical warming up during a match. Okay, let's concentrate on that, and then I'll go back to this issue again. Technical warming up time starts from point number 1 and ends at point 3. These are ISSF pistol rules, page 245, 6.11.9.1. Now, before qualification, outside the firing lanes. The second is qualification procedure. Athletes are given 25 minutes before scheduled start time. So, your warming up, your technical warming up, the amount of time you have starts with before qualification outside the firing lanes. Okay? That is, even before you go to your firing point, you start, you have time, you warm up, you technically warm up outside the firing lanes, somewhere in the shooting range. You find a spot and you do your warming up. The second is the qualification procedure. You know, when the range officer calls for, announces the next detail, shooters report to the range officer. So you go there, you take your entry card, you get some time there, and then after you've completed your figure check, all those checks, then you go to occupy your lane. So that's the time you get, and that's where you get sighting time. And finally is the preparation and sighting time, which is common, 15 minutes to fire an unlimited number of shots. Okay, so let's take before qualification outside the firing lanes, what are you supposed to be doing? Okay, so what you do is you have to go through your checklist. Remember, I had spoken about the checklist. You are yet to get into the shooting range and occupy a firing point. So this is the last time that to avoid any bloomers, whether you've forgotten tins, you've forgotten your weapon, the safety flag, and all other things. So this is the first thing when you start warming up, before you occupy the firing point, you go through your checklist. Then, of course, you do your physical warming up, sorry. Then you commence with right hand dry firing against the wall. And what do you do in this dry firing against the wall? You start warming up the aiming process elements. That is, you start with the keeping your sights steady. Generally, you start with, after you warmed up, you try and keep your sights steady. Okay. I wouldn't be much bothered about the focus here or the arc of movement. Very simply because wherever you are practicing your warming up in the shooting range, you know, the light is not going to be the same as it is going to be on your firing point. So I wouldn't be too bothered about getting that focus, nor would I be very excited that I'm getting a damn good focus. Just concentrate on getting your sights steady. Just keep your sights steady, okay? And simultaneously get that trigger going. Get that trigger going along with your breathing. As I told you, when you hold your breath or whatever, just try and get that trigger going. You know, just remove the cobwebs from your mind. And don't forget to do your left hand balancing. Okay, so you must hold your pistol in the left hand for about a minute or two during this warming up. All right. When you are called for the next detail by the range officer, out of the 25 minutes which is given by a rule book, by the ISSF rule book, you get hardly 10 to 15 minutes, because by the time you get your trigger weight going, trigger weight check, and you have shown your competitor card and you allotted your lane, it takes about a few minutes. So out of 25 minutes, by the time you actually occupy a firing point and you get ready, get your pistol, get all your the items on the checklist ready on your firing point, you have about 10 minutes. And during that 10 minutes, you're not supposed to do any dry practice. Okay? So you can only do your aiming exercise. And this is very important. You must use this time very, very carefully. Get your focus going. Get that focus going, because that focus is critical, as we will be discussing further along in this webinar. Get that focus going and coordinate it with your breathing, because this will be the focus, the correct focus which you're going to be using during the match. And remember one thing, the focus in every match, every shooting range will be different from your practice range. So get that focus going. Do as many lifts as you can do, as you do in your practice session. Do not overdo it. So if you're used to doing about 10 odd or 15 odd, then just stick to that. If you have a very good focus going, excellent, move on to your next element, which is get your sight alignment going. If you've got your sight alignment going, then get your arc of movement, reducing your arc of movement. That is what you should be working on. So in those 10-15 minutes, you're warmed up nearly 50%. Okay, 50%, you got a damn good focus. You got an excellent focus. You got a steady sight alignment, and you got to reduce your arc of movement. Great. Battle is 25% in your favor. Preparation and sighting time is given 15 minutes. Once again, get that focus going, coordinate with trigger timing, concentrate on achieving focus lock, and trigger operation follow through. Incorporate point 1, 2, 3 in your routine while practicing on your home range. Once you're given your preparation time, get that focus again and coordinate it with your trigger timing. Get that focus lock. Get that focus and get the trigger timing. That's what you should be doing. So in your 15 minutes preparation time, you're allowed to do dry firing. Okay, not only dry firing, but you can also do live shooting. And the most important thing is get that focus and your trigger time. Get that focus and the trigger timing. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Please use your chat box. Kumar says, is there any specific exercise to get 1 minute? There's someone who wants to. Okay, this is Tanishi Chaudhary. We are most welcome, Tanishi. Please, I've accepted your request. 1, 2, and 3. Steps 1, 2, and 3. Get that focus, get the trigger timing going, and use it. Do this even in your practice session. So with every practice session that you do, incorporate the warming up outside, whatever time you want, and whatever stuff that you're doing. The second thing is, you must start You will start with your preparation time, that is aiming exercise for about 10 minutes. And you must practice your sighter time, 10 to 15 minutes, even during your practice session. It's very critical, very important. And I'll tell you why. Good evening, Tanishi.
Good evening, sir. Nice to meet you too, sir. Sir, I had a question that is bothering me from long. Actually, when I'm practicing in my daily routine, so my trigger is continuous. Timing is very good, like around 4 to 5 seconds. My shot is almost every shot is fired. But when I go to the match, in that I don't know what happens, but I cancel a lot of times, and then also my arc of movement is also increased. Trigger operation also is not continuous. So what should I do for that?
Yeah, these are all the symptoms of match pressure. Okay, but what I want to ask you is, how long does this last? I mean, I understand when you start shooting your first record shot, your first record series, how long does these problems last?
So most of the problems.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Kindly join back. Tanishi, I ejected you out by mistake. Please join again. Please join again. Please reconnect. The problem what Tanishi, while she joins in, let's discuss her issues. The problem that Tanishi is facing is match pressure, which we'll be dealing in the next webinar, the mental aspects. Yes, Tanishi, I apologize. I ejected you.
No problem.
Okay. How long, in which series and does this stop? This arc of movement and trigger not working smoothly?
So most of the things stop almost after the second series, but my trigger operation, it almost continues till the 5th or the 6th series. My trigger operation, I don't know, I'm not able to execute my trigger operation in the match.
Okay, Tanishi, what happens is this match pressure, the first thing it will strike is your trigger time. And let me tell you, even the world's best shooter, Manu and the Saurabh and whoever, international also, when they go to the shooting range, their whole idea of warming up is to get that trigger timing going. Because if they execute the shot within the perfect trigger timing that they are used to, shot goes in a 10. And I'm sure the same thing happens with you.
Yes.
Yes. So the key is, like I was telling Prasad, he's coming to Satara for 5 days training. Not only am I going to get the trigger automatic when the sights come in the enemy area, but the trigger timing is also going to be stabilized, finalized. It will move according to his needs. If it is used to 5-6 seconds, then 5-6 seconds plus minus 1 second. Every shot automatically will go with the same trigger timing. And don't worry, I will be discussing all these techniques in future with all the shooters, how to do it. In the next webinar, we are going to handle match pressure. See, all these things, as you said, the first 2 series, So first, it is taking you too long. That means you need to prepare yourself mentally to handle match pressure. And don't worry. See, there is a body of knowledge. You have to just go through it. Not only just go through it, but you need to apply it on yourself. And I will be teaching you some parts of it in the next webinar. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing you in the next webinar, which incidentally will be on the 10th, I think. It will be announced and you'll get your email. Good to have you.
Thank you. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So like I was saying, I always say you must practice. If your practice session is like your match, then your match will be like your practice session. So treat every practice session like your match. And how do you do it? Not by coming with a serious face. No, just follow step 1, step 2, step 3. When you walk into the shooting range, first and foremost, like I told you before, this is not a place for socializing because you're going to use your most valuable time. All right. Some of us are, working, like Sivan Smith is a high level executive, and most of you, I'm sure, are also working. Your time is valuable. You want to socialize, you do it some other time, not on the shooting range. So when you come on the shooting range, stay away from the crowd. Do your first part, the warming up, technical warming up, physical warming up, somewhere outside. But get used to doing that. Do that. So the second step is, the 10-15 minutes of aiming. Get used to that. You take a timer, time yourself, 10 minutes aiming. Just concentrate on aiming, getting that focus correct, reducing that arc of movement, okay, and keeping your sight steady. Just work on your aiming, the aiming process. And then 15 minutes, set your timer. You must incorporate this before you start shooting live. Before you start shooting a record in your practice. Okay, 10-15 minutes, this is going to be my sighters. And after you finish your sighters, then obviously if you're using the CO system or any electronic system, you have the 15 minutes or whatever time for sighters, and then you reset the machine, and then you start your record shots. Please develop this into a routine, make it into a habit. Why? Because when you are in your practice session and when you are following these steps, you are relaxed. I will be dealing with this in my next webinar. You are in a relaxed state of mind. You are following the same steps. And in a routine, if you follow a routine during your match, if you follow the same steps, you'll get into your groove much quicker. Like Tanishi says, it takes her the third series. After 2 series, she settles down. Why? If you are doing this, practice this religiously, seriously, in your practice session, you should be able to get into your groove from the very first series itself. Now, as I told you, there is a very important thing I keep stressing on is the focus. The focus. The focus. Get that focus going. Not when you're warming up outside the firing point. Not during the qualification time. But when you occupy your firing point, you must concentrate on focus. And I'll tell you the reason why. This is an important video. Please watch it. And then we'll discuss. Hello friends, we now come to the 6th step in our shot cycle, which is focus. Have you noticed sometimes just when the shot goes off, you lose sight of the foresight. The complete focus on the foresight disappears as shown in the clip. Now in this clip, just as the shot goes, the foresight gets blurred or disappears for a second. The shot can go anywhere. Hello friends, we now come to the sixth step in the eighth ring at 8 o'clock. Therefore, it is very important to maintain your focus on your sights before, during and after the shot. Now, to understand the importance of focus, you must understand how the eye works and how the images that the eye sends to your brain controls the entire body. Now in this clip, you will see the lens of the eye. It is marked in red. Now when the lens contracts and expands, the image of your aligned sights becomes sharp or blurred, based on the picture sent by your eye of the aligned sights through the optic nerve to the brain. The brain processes this information. If it is a sharp picture, then the entire muscles of the body maintain a certain level of tension. But if the picture is blurred, as shown in the clip, then the tension in the muscles loosen because the picture is not sharp, it is blurred, and therefore the tension which should be there in the muscles becomes loose. When the picture is sharp, it is tense. When it is blurred, it becomes loose, and when it becomes loose, your arc of movement becomes wider, your sights start shivering, and therefore it is very important that you maintain sharp focus before, during and after the shot. That is why I emphasize on focus. When you occupy the firing point, okay, aiming exercises are allowed, no dry firing is allowed. Get that focus going. Because the moment you get that sharp focus, your sight alignment becomes steady, your arc of movement becomes steady. Just practice this on the shooting range. Practice it. When you go back on your shooting range, practice it. The aiming, just the aiming. Get that sharp focus and get that sharp focus follow through. That is, your focus has to be sharp before, during, and after the shot is fired. Get that going. And with that, you learn how to coordinate an automatic trigger. Okay? That is why you must always concentrate on your focus, getting that good sharp focus and coordinate it with your automatic trigger operation. And now we will talk about the strategies that you should adopt before a match. What should be your strategy for your match? I will give you three personal examples. My second nationals, my national games in Manipur, and the first final to the Maharashtra State Championships. Okay. Like I said, three examples. Now, all three examples are set in different points of time, and my level of mastery was different during the first example, the second example, and the third example. Okay? In the first example, this was my second nationals at Coimbatore, and before the match, sitting in the hotel room, I decided, now what do I do? What should I do? So I decided that whatever happens, when my sights come into the aiming area, and during those days, my sights were not steady. Okay, focus and arc of movement, all these, I was still in the learning phase. My aiming process was not mastered. So I said, all right, doesn't matter. I'm here for the nationals. I have to shoot this match. I can't afford to hang around waiting for my sights to become steady. So whatever happens, once the sights come into the aiming area, even if they're moving, I'm going to execute a good follow through during the shot. I will execute the shot even during the time if the sight is moving. I'll do the follow through. And regardless of what the score is, I'm not going to check my score. Because I know that my sights are unsteady. I have to execute the trigger in any case. If I just look at the score, what is the use? It's of no use. So I'll just focus for each and every shot on my sight alignment. Just trying to keep that sight alignment, get that trigger going. And I did that sincerely for each and every shot in my 60-shot match. And there were a lot of cancellations, but I didn't bother about my score. I just focused on that. And believe you, during those days, I was shooting around 550, okay, with those, those fine work bow pistols, model 65, the spring-loaded pistols, I was shooting 550, and when I finished the match, those days we were allowed to, take the cards. They were those paper targets. I scored 560. Even at that level, when I was shooting 515, around 550, 556 and all, some days, yes, 560. In my practice, I shot a 560, my best score that time, at that kind of skill level in a match, the national championships. Okay. Now the second example. This was a few years later when my aiming process was mastered. Okay. So when my sights used to come, I used to get a very good steady sight alignment, good sharp focus, and my arc of movement used to reduce pretty good. By that time, I had almost mastered it. Okay. For that was my national games in Manipur. During that a day before, I said that I'm going to concentrate only on my trigger, smooth trigger execution before, during, and after the shot is fired, the follow through. Now, during those days, we had those CO2 pistols, carbon dioxide pistols, fine work bow. So the level of technology also changed from spring-loaded to CO2 filled cylinders. And when I went into the practice, into the qualification round, I started off, and that time I used to hold my breath, and just hold onto the trigger and wait till the shot used to go, and continue holding that trigger even after the shot is gone. I said there's no point looking at, and by the way, in the first series it was okay, second series I shot 2 8s, 8, and a third 8, and I said hold it. I just sat down. I said, look, don't be bothered about this, just concentrate on your strategy. And what was the strategy? Get that trigger going before, during, and after the shot. Just keep staring at the sights, get a good focus. And that's what I did for the entire match. I never looked again at my card. Believe me, never looked. The card used to come, I used to take it, dump it at the side, put the next card. Even those days we had those, we had the electronic thing, those paper targets were going up and down. And after I finished the match, I was dead tired, my hand was paining, and we are allowed to score, we scored, checked the thing, and I shot for the first time in my life, in those days, 568 with a CO2 fine work bow pistols. Nowadays, you have these beautiful electronic trigger systems. So, during my second match, I concentrated, developed a strategy, and followed it for every shot in my match, and I shot my best. The third experience that I'm going to give you was during the finals. This was the first finals ever conducted in our state championships, Maharashtra state championships. Okay, I didn't shoot anything great, but I stood in the 7th position. I was in the 7th position, and when I went back home, because there was a lot of time. Those days, you don't finish and within 1 hour you have your finals. No. I went home, took my lunch, and I just developed a strategy. I said, look, buddy, you're almost out of the match. There's no hope in hell of getting a position. So I said, doesn't matter. Again, I will concentrate only on my strategy. The strategy was get that focus. And by that time, I had a very good focus also. Get that focus, hold your breath, and get that trigger going, regardless of what the shot was. We started the finals. My first shot was a 9. And then, unfortunately, you had to get used to it because everyone is, the scores were being counted, that was being announced, and this was a completely new experience. I said, nothing doing, I'll just concentrate. So I just stood on my firing platform with my pistol. Second shot, 10. Third shot, 10. Fourth shot, 10. Fifth shot, 10. And I could hear the rumblings behind him. He's shooting 10s. He's shooting 10s in the finals. I could hear that. I just switched it off. I said, no, just concentrate. My 6th shot, 10. 7th shot, 10. My 8th shot, 10. So after the first 9, next 7 shots were all 10s and decent 10s, good 10s. The 9th shot was a 9, and after the 9th shot, I was tied for the bronze. Okay, and that guy who was on 3rd position, a very senior shooter, he got rattled. And the crowd was all hooting for me. From this 7th position, this guy Maverick, he's got no hope in hell, has come suddenly in a place where he's getting a 3rd position. And then the pressure little bit got to me. Okay, I said, still, follow the strategy, follow the strategy, follow the strategy. Load, start. Started holding on to the trigger, just hanging on to that focus. Then I heard that shot, that guy is shooting, and ooh, Still I said, I have to do my best. I think he must have shot at that. Regardless, just keep on. And the shot goes a decent 9. That guy had shot an 8. So from a 7th position, the 7th position, I reached the 3rd position purely on my strategy. Purely on my strategy. So what I'm trying to emphasize is, before every match, stop bothering about that score. It's only going to bring you down. Instead, concentrate on shot execution and the quality of shot execution at whatever mastery level you are. See, there was a huge difference. Okay, huge difference. In the first, I was using a spring-loaded gun. In the second, it was a CO2. In the third, it was a compressed air. Okay, trigger. The technology was different. The level of mastery was different. By the 3rd time, my aiming process was very well mastered. Very well. But the trigger was not all that great. But it was far better than my second experience. So as you go on mastering the skill for shooting a 10, your warming up also changes, and your only way you can reduce match pressure and do well is to practice the same strategy in your practice routine and in your match. So when you go for a match, you work out a technical strategy and have the discipline to follow it from every shot. 1 shot, 2nd shot. Don't get diverted. If you get diverted, you are going to come crashing down. And practice this in your practice session, on your home range. So when you are going to start your practice, you decide that this is what I'm going to concentrate on, only on. Now what happens is, I'll tell you, when you're chasing your score and you find that you're not shooting 10s, and say you've concentrated, let's say I'm going to concentrate only on trigger timing, okay? And you see that, because you're, for some reason, you're delaying it and your sights are unsteady or your sights are not in focus, then you change your strategy. Oh God, now what do? I have to change my technique. So let me focus on my, sight alignment, okay? And it works. Strangely enough, it works. Next 2, 3 shots, 3, 4 shots become very good. And then again, you get trapped. And suddenly you start shooting 8s and then you panic and you say, okay, I have to change my strategy. Okay, so now let's go back to trigger. So this kind of hodgepodge strategy or technique is not going to give you your best. And at the end of the match, you will find your same routine, hopeless bloody scores. Concentrate on one strategy, on one technique, practice it in a practice session, adopt the same thing in your match, and you will see the results. Don't bother about the score. Okay, so that's it. You have any questions? Any questions? Please use your chat box. And please complete the survey. This is a very short survey. I'd really appreciate it if you take the time out from your busy schedule to complete the survey. Any questions, please? Sir, how to take center position on the Sears lane and how to verify it? Shashwat, in my training modules, there is how to get your body aligned. NPA 1, NPA 2, NPA 3, that is natural point of aim. Natural point of aim on the target. So when your pistol comes on the target, your sight should be dead steady, not dead steady, but you should be in the aiming area. NPA 1, NPA 2, NPA 3. These are the 3 videos in my training methodology, advanced training methodology. Okay, Marvin, good evening. The net connection today is very bad. Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you please share the webinar on my email to rewatch? Thank you. You don't share, we don't give the emails. We don't give it on email. You'll have the replay. The link of the replay will be sent to you. Why do we need left hand balancing? Left hand balancing because it's an eccentric, you're taking the load on your right hand and the load comes on your C5, C6, C7. And if you don't do left hand balancing, you are going to definitely head down the injury road. Okay, in India, most of the competition second step is missed. We will have mostly step 1 and no. In the national level, even at the state level, you do get time. You do get times, but you can compress it to, instead of 10-15 minutes, you reduce it to 10 minutes. That aiming is very important. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. Please do give your suggestions, and I hope to see all of y'all in the next webinar. In the next webinar, which will be on 10th of March, the dates will be sent to you. We will be conducting a webinar on the mental preparation. Thank you very much. Good night.